Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Darth Cinema, and as you can tell from my voice, I'm starting to get a little better. And I thought I would do a different kind of video today. So, with 2016, um, we are having probably one of the biggest years in movie history as far as superhero films, with two of some of the biggest movies arguably to come out this year, and those being Captain America Civil War and Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. So naturally, during this, we always get, during the build-up to both of these films, we get a lot of the Marvel versus DC argument. Which side is better, and you have the DC fanboys going, oh, Marvel's for kids and all that, and then you have Marvel say our films are more successful and yours have to be too dark and gritty and you don't allow a laugh. And I was trying to figure out something to say about this. I was going to do a video like this expressing my own thoughts, and I did express these months and months ago, but now that we're getting closer, I felt that it had to be addressed again. And I saw this article, and this was written July 9th, 2015, by the insightful Panda. And maybe I did. I don't think I read this to you guys, but this is called The Top 5 Marvel vs. DC Arguments Disproved Why We Should End the Feud. And I've made it known that I grew up with Batman, yet I am a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I do doubt the ability of Batman v Superman to hold up. I hope I'm proven wrong. However, I'm not here to start the war between Marvel and DC. I'm not. But I came here because I read a good article, and I wanted to share it with all of you. So, here we go. Go anywhere on the internet, and you will probably find someone arguing about something. Whereas Marvel and DC are certainly not the first franchises to have warring fan factions, they've certainly caused the most feuds lately. While Star Trek and Star Wars are finding star unity with J.J. Abrams, Marvel and DC seem to be drifting further and further apart, which makes no sense. Liking DC and Marvel is not mutually exclusive. You can enjoy both. In fact, you should. The days when people felt shy about discussing superheroes and comics out in the open are over. In many ways, this is the golden age of the nerd, where more and more people are discovering the joy of comics and heroes. 2016 alone will give us Batman v Superman, Deadpool, Captain America Civil War, Suicide Squad, and X-Men Age of Apocalypse, or X-Men Apocalypse. Not to mention the plethora of other great films and video games. So why do some people choose to argue rather than just embrace all of the incredible stuff that is coming out? Maybe this goes back to our childhood, when you could only pick one type of comic to read, and as you grew, you remained loyal to that one brand. But times have changed, and now you have access to all these great stories that are being brought to the big screen. Though rather than give the other side a chance, many would rather throw the same old, used-up accusations. That is why I'm setting out to disprove all of the usual Marvel vs. DC arguments and show why each property deserves a chance, at least to coexist peacefully. I know this won't convince everyone, but if this article helps just one person, I'll consider it a success. And as for those of you who already enjoy both Marvel and DC, I applaud you, and I hope that I'm able to put into writing what you've been feeling all this time. So, inaccurate argument number 1. Marvel is not realistic enough and needs to be darker. How many times have you heard someone say Marvel movies are for kids? They're not realistic enough. DC is better because their films are darker and thus more realistic, or something along those lines. They think that just because DC films are more dark and brooding, that immediately makes them more realistic and better. Hell, even Ben Affleck, who plays Batman in the upcoming Batman v Superman film, expressed these beliefs in an interview recently. Not anyone is allowed to favor one film or the other, but relying on this as your argument honestly paints a very sad and, ironically, unrealistic view of the world. They might say that DC is more realistic because it's darker, but that's not the case at all. Life isn't all darkness and brooding. There are humorous moments, and some people have a gift for finding humor when all is lost. Life isn't black and white, and there needs to be a balance in all things. So when DCers claim that DC is more realistic because it's dark and not lighthearted, The only thing they are doing is proving that Marvel is in fact more realistic than DC. Sure, some Marvel films might have been over the top, lighthearted than others, but look at Captain America the Winter Soldier. That film was less a superhero film and more a political thriller that had very serious moments and problems, yet still found the time to find the light in things. Even Guardians of the Galaxy, a film with a talking raccoon and tree, found numerous times to be very serious. Heck, the film started with one of the most emotionally moving moments ever, but it was still able to take time to be humorous. Life can be tough and it can beat you down, but you can't forget that life also gives you a lot of moments to be serious. It is this balance of humor and serious that makes Marvel more realistic than DC. And if you want grit, look at Marvel's Daredevil, a show that is by far the darkest thing Marvel has ever done. And yet even there we had some laughs. You are free to prefer DC or Marvel, but don't make up half-minded excuses about how lightheartedness makes a show any less real or good. And if you still don't believe me, DCers, just look at The Flash, which arguably is the best superhero show on TV right now. Side note, I do agree with this. The Flash was awesome. And yet, surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, this is where some diehard Marvel fans throw the exact same excuse at DC. Inaccurate argument number 2. DC shows, the Arrowverse, are too campy. Much like how diehard DC fans claim that Marvel films are too lighthearted and over the top, diehard Marvel fans claim the exact same thing about DC's TV universe, or the Arrowverse. Now, Arrow started with a good balance of humor and grit, but this past season seemed to go full dark. And as I just discussed above, never go full dark. Though it is The Flash that this argument is usually thrown at, and whereas the first few episodes of The Flash seemed a little formulaic and campy, the mid-season finale changed all of that. What started as a silly and happy-go-lucky show suddenly got a ton of gravity to it as the Flash finds the man who killed his mother. Similarly, the characters in the show even acknowledged how they took the superheroing gig too much like a cartoon. It's because of these self-referential moments, light-hearted and yet serious tone, that The Flash has had the greatest season finale of the 2014-2015 season, leaving us completely satisfied while also waiting eagerly for the next season. And with news of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, which looks amazing, arriving this next year, these half-witted accusations of campiness will continue. Though no matter how over-the-top and full of one-liners Legends of Tomorrow might be, remember one thing. Cast a stone at DC TV, and you'll also have to cast one at Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the entire Marvel Universe. The films certainly have their campy and over-the-top moments. I'm looking at you in particular, Thor. But any Marvel fan who takes issue with the Arrowverse's way of doing things need only look at Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. At first glance, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. might seem like one of the campiest shows on TV, and sometimes it is. But all of its moments are leading to a bigger reveal and lesson. The exact same thing is true of the Arrowverse. Similarly, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. started off very formulaic too. But when Captain America the Winter Soldier tie-in episode Turn, Turn, Turn happened, everything became epic. Sounds like The Flash, right? So remember, anything can have its campy and over-the-top moments. But that's not a bad thing. Over-the-top villains and story ideas are kind of the foundation of comics. Furthermore, when applied to live-action adaptations, it's what the shows and films do with these moments that makes them truly great. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and The Flash both started off a little exaggerated, but it all led to them becoming the incredible shows that they are today. We might not see it in the moment, but there is a larger glorious plan at work. All you need to do is give them a fair chance. You've done it with one, so why not the other? Inaccurate argument number 3. Marvel is too simplistic and has no depth. Another half-minded accusation is that the Marvel films have no depth and rely too much on destruction and fighting. For starters, this belief is ludicrous, and considering the only DC film thus far, Man of Steel, had an entire city needlessly destroyed. Now, sure, Snyder and the Batman v Superman team claim that they are doing something unique by having this new film deal with the repercussions of this battle, while the Avengers didn't, but again, they are overlooking some tremendous facts. For starters, the battle in Avengers was a lot less destructive than the one in Man of Steel, as many Avengers focused on containment. Though despite these containment attempts, there was still destruction, which was explored extensively in Marvel's Phase 2. We saw how Tony Stark developed post-traumatic stress disorder, how S.H.I.E.L.D. got more power in light of the catastrophe and allowed for Hydra to make a move, and how all of these losses culminated in the fears and steps that led to Ultron's creation. Though as far as the physical destruction of New York, that was the setup for Marvel's Daredevil, where we saw how the Battle of New York actually turned the thriving Hell's Kitchen back into the shady, crime-ridden neighborhood it was decades ago. At the end of the day, you have to realize that all of these superhero films have put a lot into their writing. So whether you like it or not, there is depth to each film. Do some have more than others? Sure, but they all have depth, whether it be themes, character developments, emotional tones, or powerful metaphors. Again, take Captain America the Winter Soldier, which had tons of depth with Steve and Bucky's relationship. Falcon's role as the new Bucky and the notion that Steve originally died for nothing. This film hit hard and had so much depth and repercussions that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the entire path of the MCU changed because of it. Whether or not a viewer took the time to see these complexities was totally up to them, to which I say they should have read my article, with a winky face there. And Marvel fans, before you throw the same accusation of Man of Steel, hold up a sec. Yes, I did just point out that Man of Steel did rely a lot on fighting, but I never said it didn't have depth. It might not be the best Superman film, but there were still some very well-executed thematic veins, such as the conflicting views of humanity accepting or detesting Clark. Furthermore, Clark snapping Zod's neck might have seemed very out of character, but remember what happened directly before and after this moment. Zod left him literally no choice, and after he killed him, Superman broke down. This was still the same good boy Superman, and the fact that he just had to kill someone, no matter how evil he was, tears him apart. So again, Marvel and DC both have tons of depth in their films, as long as you don't turn a blind eye to them. Inaccurate argument number 4. Besides The Dark Knight, DC has nothing that's good. As you probably noticed by now, there's a lot of ridiculous arguments thrown around the Marvel-DC rivalry, but few are as preposterous as the notion that DC has done or does nothing of quality. If you're lucky, they'll sometimes acknowledge The Dark Knight, but they're still turning a blind eye to one of DC's greatest legacies, the animated series of Bruce Timm. Before there were cinematic universes, DC brought us the animated universe, and it all started with the iconic Batman the Animated Series. With multiple seasons, films, and spin-offs, Bruce Timm's animated universe manages to tie together Batman, Superman, and multiple Justice Leagues, while also traveling far into the future for the groundbreaking Batman Beyond. To ignore accomplishments such as these is borderline blasphemous. Even if you can't enjoy Batman v Superman, you still have to love World's Finest, the quintessential Batman and Superman film. This interconnected animated universe spanned well over 10 years and represents a longevity that even the Marvel Cinematic Universe has yet to achieve. So don't worry, DC, you still got that. Though if Bruce Timm's animated universe is too old an example for you, then look at the Arkham game series. Superhero video games have never been an easy endeavor, and there have certainly been a lot of atrocious failures. Oh, that's an article for another time. But the Arkham series by Rocksteady Studios has truly been a role model. With various entries, stunning gameplay, and an overall shared universe, this series has excelled where other superhero games have failed, for both DC and Marvel. DC may have had a slow start to the cinematic universe game, but that's no reason to think they have nothing to offer. I, for one, love Marvel's Avengers Assembled and Ultimate Spider-Man, but it still can't take away from DC's animated legacy. Seriously, we all need more Bruce Timm in our lives. And that is why when it comes to animated series and video games, DC owns the competition in terms of quality, longevity, and overall critical reception. Competition or not, you must respect your opponent's strengths. Which brings us to our final half-witted argument claim. Inaccurate argument number 5. You're more Marvel, so DC has the best cinematic universe around. There's been an odd trend lately where certain media sites will post random thing about the DC cinematic universe, or like the Suicide Squad lineup, The Rock being cast as Shazam, etc., and then caption it simply with, "Your move, Marvel," as if DC is issuing a challenge to Marvel. There are so many things wrong with this statement that I don't even know where to start. So let's get to the facts. Marvel has been working on a cinematic universe for over 7 years, and considering they currently hold the honor of the highest grossing film franchise ever, I don't think they're too worried about anything DC is planning just yet. Is DC's potential there? Oh, hell yeah. But it still has no bearing on the issue. In fact, let me illustrate this problem a little differently. Saying you're more Marvel is basically the cinematic equivalent of Chris Pratt putting on a fedora and saying, "Your move, Harrison Ford." Now I know what you're thinking. Why did I say Chris Pratt? Do I have something against him? Why not Shia LaBeouf? Simple. Because, and I never thought I'd say these words, but DC is not Shia LaBeouf in this scenario. Harrison Ford is a legend. Well, that's an understatement. Whether you like the films or not, there is no denying that Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade are two of the most iconic action-adventure films of all time. Regardless of any Crystal-themed modern-day follow-ups, you still have to give the man credit. At one point, as of this moment, though, Chris Pratt is not playing Indiana Jones. Could he one day? Hopefully. Would he be great? Absolutely. But as of this moment, he hasn't done any Indiana Jones films. He's played characters similar to the charming treasure hunter, but that doesn't make it an Indiana Jones film. Though even if Pratt one day becomes Indiana Jones, we would still give Harrison Ford the respect he deserves as the man who started the craze and made the franchise what it is. Now let's apply the above metaphor to Marvel and DC. Again, regardless of what you think of the films, Marvel has brought the superhero genre into a new age. The idea of branching out an interconnected universe through film was something they started way back in 2008 when Nick Fury first told Iron Man that he became part of a bigger universe. Marvel is clearly Harrison Ford in this scenario, and like I said before, DC is Chris Pratt. And DC fans, that is nothing to be ashamed of. He is awesome. Does DC currently have a real-life cinematic universe? No. They have Man of Steel, which initially was just a singular work. Nothing was in that film that directly screamed, this is the start of a larger universe. Will DC one day have a cinematic universe? Yeah. 2016 is going to be that year. The cinematic universe might take a drastically different approach, and sometimes seem a little unorthodox, but they have every possibility to get it right and form a brilliant cinematic universe of their own. Some of the stuff coming out for Suicide Squad looks really interesting, and in years to come, we might find that DC did just as much for the hero movie genre as Marvel did. Though at the end of the day, it's still the veteran versus the newcomer, and whatever success the DCCU might have, it still doesn't take away from what the MCU has already achieved. Well, those were the 5 arguments, but just because if you guys stuck to right now, I'm going to give you an extra treat. A bonus inaccurate argument. The feud is good and makes them work for us. A couple of people have expressed the idea that ending the feud would result in a monopoly. They say that the feud is good because it makes Marvel and DC fight over us and strive to make better content so that we don't go turncoat on them. Allow me to redirect you to the first section of the article. Liking Marvel and DC isn't mutually exclusive. Marvel and DC aren't two competing types of cable providers, phone services, etc. You can have both, and this idea that you can only like one is the problem. Liking Marvel and DC isn't akin to you having an iPod in one pocket and a Zune in the other. Yeah, I went there. Liking Marvel and DC simply means you're a superhero fan. And thus anyone who makes the superhero content, Marvel or DC or anyone, would have to keep their quality levels in check because you, the reader, are aware of everything on the market. Competition and feud are not the same thing. And I think a lot of people forget that. Thus, an end to the feud doesn't mean an end to competition. In closing, I don't expect this article to stop the Marvel and DC fighting altogether. But if this can help even a few put aside their pitchforks and come to respect the other side, then that is as good a start as any. The truth is that there are so many incredible stories told within each property, that the only way to lose is by not acknowledging the other. Everyone is allowed to prefer whichever property they want, but please skip past all the needless flame wars and irrational bashing of the other side. There are much more pressing matters in the world to deal with. Superheroes and comic books are meant to bring us together and think about a better tomorrow. So if we, fans, filmmakers, stars, and media outlets alike, could stop perpetuating these fights and instead start working together, then that would be truly heroic. I highly suggest to everyone that I will put the link to this article in the description. Please spread this around, because I think I'm as guilty of this as many people. I think every single person at one point in a comic fan's life, we may have taken a side in this, and especially given this past year, with all the good content coming out from DC, all the good content coming out from Marvel, it makes me realize that you never have to choose just one. I will always love Batman as my childhood superhero. I will always remember Kevin Conroy voicing Batman. I will always remember Heart of Ice, my very first experience with Batman. That heartbreaking story of Mr. Freeze. And I'll always love Marvel. I'll always love Spider-Man. I'll always love the X-Men. I will always love the Avengers. The Young Avengers being my favorite Marvel team. I'm never going to stop loving them, no matter how many fanboys tell me I have to choose a side. This is a war that needs to stop, because at this point I am not a Marvel fan. I am not a DC fan. I am a superhero fan. Regardless of property, they all stand for the same thing. They fight for the same goals. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, please like, comment, subscribe, share this video around. Because I really hope that if we start looking at this together, we can appreciate these characters for what they are and not what brand they're under. My name is Darth Cinema, and I will see you guys in my next video. Take care, and I'll see you later.